If you've been around recently, my name's Chase. I'm one of the pastors here, and if you've been around recently, you probably heard me talk about the tired stage of life that I'm in. And if you did not know, my wife and I and our family entered into the foster care world about a year ago, and we brought into our life a little baby, about real young, like with a little over a week old, into our house. We've had her for almost a year, so it's been really exciting, really cool. But the thing is, she was 9 days old when she came to our house, and if you don't know, the rest of our family, our next kid is 9 years old, okay, and then 11 years old. So we did this thing called reverse. We went backwards a lot of years, and that brought with it diapers and cribs and bottles and wipes and the ability that I lost to sleep in whenever I wanted to, okay? And so you've heard me my wife might say I've complained a little bit from the stage because of the lack of sleep, but I've expressed maybe some of the negative parts about having an infant again, but there's some really cool things about that early stage of life. And especially now we're entering into the 1 year phase, right? There's some cool things that happens. Babies and children are sponges, right? They soak up everything. They're really good imitators. They're really good followers. They're really good at watching what you do and what you say and saying the same and doing the same. And for the most part, that's cute, right? You've probably been to the point where one of your kids has said something, you're like, why did you say that? Where did you hear that from? And they're like, oh, Mom. Because it wouldn't be me, right? Mom, it wasn't me. Right? So, but for the most part, they're cute, right? There's a cute phase where they're imitating you. And our little one's kind of in that phase right now. And one of the things she's been doing this past week as I was prepping this message, we were hanging out in our basement and she's walking around and all of a sudden she throws her wrist up to her face and starts babbling. And we kind of looked at her and we go, oh, my wife talks to text to her Apple Watch sometimes. And she saw my wife do it, heard my wife do it, and thought, oh, yeah, I can do that too. Right? Super cute, right? Oh, like, that's really cute. She's seeing us, looking up to us, hearing what we say, watching what we do, and doing the same. We also have a dog, and he knows 2 commands. That's about it, but he's really good at them. So, it's like normal dogs where you think he's super trained, but really he's only trained like one thing. And so he's like that, and the 2 commands are down and stay. But we change our tone, and we also have hand motions when we do it. So we'll say, Groot, down, pointing down, and then stay. And we do that so if we say down or stay in a conversation, he knows the difference. Well, our little one, she's paying attention, and so whenever we do that, she walks out and goes, because she's watching us, she's listening to us, and she's learning how to be human from us. It's a big responsibility when you have a little kid. They're learning that. And what happens with children, because they're sponges, because they're incredible learners, because they're great at following, what normally tends to happen is one of your kids will probably end up being a lot like you. If you have kids, you probably know that. If you've met my 9-year-old, you'll be like, yes, I see that. He's loud, he talks a lot, he has this weird thing he does with his hair, he's really focused on his image, okay? So that was a joke. And he's funny, right? See, I did that to pat myself on the back. Anyway, so you'll see that's what happens, but it's because they're watching and listening. They're soaking everything up. They're imitating. And the hope is that as we speak to them and talk to them and act, that they will learn how to be a human from us. Hopefully, they'll learn from our teaching and they will obey it, and they will grow up to be who God has called them to be. They'll grow up to be better humans by looking at us. Well, as I was thinking about this series, I was thinking about children, and I realized that Christianity is the same way. Our goal is to look up to Jesus, to see what he says, to look at what he does, to see who he is, and to act like him. We need to be like these children that are great sponges. We need to soak up the life of Jesus, watch what he says, do what he does, obey what he teaches us so that we can learn to be like Christ. It's the same concept, and that's what this series is all about. Is we've been talking about how do we simply follow after Jesus. Christianity is about simply imitating, following after the life that Jesus has laid out for us. And Really excited. What I'd planned to do today, I kind of broken up this idea that last 2 weeks we were going to set up the life that Jesus has for you, a life of peace and rest and goodness, this great life he wants for us, that he wants for all of us, and show how his pace of life was a little bit slower and a little bit different than ours. And then I was going to jump into the next few weeks, and this week we're going to look at what did Jesus say that we should say. Next week, we're going to look at what did Jesus do that we should do. The next week, we're going to look at who is Jesus that we should be. And then we're going to spend a few weeks talking about a lot of the teachings that Jesus taught that we should obey. Sounds like a pretty cool outline. Well, the plan today was to share 3 places in Scripture that Jesus said something that I think we should say in our own way, in our own world today. And I was going to give you 3 mini sermons. And as I began to prepare the first one, God would not let me leave it. I was stuck right here, and I was like, the whole message has to be about this first one. And what I did is I laid out some really simple, quick, practical ways for us to say this thing that Jesus said. And then about Thursday afternoon, God just struck my heart and helped me see that, yes, it's important that we look at the life of Jesus and do what he does and say what he says and obey what he taught. But to truly be like Jesus and to be able to do all the things we need to do to be like him, we have to have the same heart that Jesus has. We have to have the same heart that God has for the world. And so I'm going to get to that in just a moment. God just wrecked me and reminded me that if we have the same heart that Jesus has, then we will be motivated to do and live the way Jesus lived. And so we're going to get to that. So we're pausing. There's not 3 mini sermons. It's just one long sermon, okay? It became its own little sermon. And we're going to look at one of the very first things that Jesus ever said to people, okay? Matthew chapter 4. If you were on a reading plan, you read this, okay? Matthew chapter 4, it says, one day, as Jesus was, who was here last week? Jesus was walking. As Jesus was walking along the shores of Sea of Galilee, he saw 2 brothers, Simon, also called Peter, and Andrew, throwing a net into the water, for they fished for a living. Jesus called out to them, "Come, follow me, and I will show you how to fish for people." And they left their nets at once, and they followed him. My goal today is to help you understand that I believe that we can say what Jesus said by saying, "Come and follow." And Jesus told his disciples, "Come follow me." And then I think what he also said is, "I will teach you how to invite other people to follow me as well." Because he said, "Come follow me and I will make you teach you how to fish for people." I grew up King James. "I will make you fishers of men." Yeah, remember that? Yeah, that's how I memorize it. "Come follow me and I'll make you fishers of men." Come follow me and I'll teach you how to fish for people. Now, he's not saying that there's a new diet that you can have. And if you fish for humans, that's not Christianity. All right. He's saying, I want you to follow after me, and I'm going to show you how to fish for people. I'm going to show you how to invite other people to follow after me as well. That's his purpose. That's his point. And I believe that's what we can say as well. How can we help people come and follow me as we follow Jesus? That's what I want to share, just 3 practical ways that can look like in your life. How can we say, in our own words, in our own way, "Come follow me. Come follow Jesus." Here's one practical way. Ready? Real practical, real quick, and we're going to get to the heart of this message that hopefully will impact you the way it impacted me. The first practical way we can invite people to come and follow with us is to invite people into our life. Now, you may think it's weird that I say, "Come follow me," when Jesus wants us to follow Jesus. And I'm telling you, hey, you should say the same thing that Jesus said, "Come follow me." But I'm really saying you should come follow Jesus with me. But one time, Paul, in one of his letters, he actually said, "Come follow me." Look at this in 1 Corinthians. He said, and you. I read "as," and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. "As you should imitate. And you should imitate me just as I imitate Christ." The word in Greek for imitate can have 2 meanings. It can mean imitate or follow. So he's really saying, "Come follow me as I follow Jesus." And I believe that one of the key pieces of Christianity, of being a disciple of Jesus, is to not only follow after him yourself, but to bring other people along with you. I think we should strive to live our lives so close to the way Jesus lived that if we were to invite someone else to follow us, they would see a lot of Jesus in the way that we live. Do you agree? Yeah, I think that's kind of the point of being like Jesus, is so that you can be Jesus to the world around you. We can all be mini Christ. That's what Christian means, is to be little Christ, Christ-like. We can express Jesus to the world around us. So I think that's part of it. A disciple, the word disciple means to be a follower or a student of, and we're supposed to follow Jesus, but I've heard this phrase and I love it. A real disciple makes disciples who makes disciples who makes disciples who makes, do you get it? It just keeps going. See, we're supposed to imitate Jesus, and one of the things Jesus did was he invited people to follow him and then taught them how to invite people to follow him and then taught them how to invite people to follow him. It's like the coolest and most spiritual and most awesome pyramid scheme, right? You know, like Jesus at the top, we follow him, we invite everybody else to follow him. It's not Amway, but it's awesome, okay, you know? My parents did Amway, I don't know much about it, I just knew it was funny. In my mind, wasn't there. Stick to the notes, Chase, stick to the notes. But our hope is that we can look at people and say, hey, follow me. Look at how I do relationships. Look at how I parent. Look at how I work. And look at how I talk. And look at how I live. And in turn, if we're following Jesus right, it's almost like we could be saying, hey, look at how Jesus would do relationships. Look at how Jesus might parent. Look at how Jesus might work. Look at how Jesus might talk and act and live. That's my hope and prayer. We're not going to be perfect in it. Nobody's perfect. We're still going to mess up. But we should be striving to confidently be able to say in our life, hey, you can follow me as I follow Jesus. If you don't exactly know what it looks like to follow Jesus, start by I'm going to invite you into my life. And you can get an up-close picture of what it looks like to follow after Jesus. I invite you into my home. I'm going to invite you into my life. And people will look and say, hey, what's up with? How did you make it through COVID and still find joy? How do you handle our boss and still want to come back the next day? How are you still married? Marriage is hard. How do you do it? How do you deal with this? And how do you deal with that? How do you live? People should be able to look and say, what's up with that? Scripture kind of tells us in multiple places that we should live among non-believers so they can see Jesus in us. Colossians 4 says, live wisely among those who are not believers and make the most of every opportunity. It says when people ask why you have hope, when people ask why you're living the way you're living, you can say, well, it's because of Jesus. You can give an answer. But it says, live among non-believers. The only way that you can invite people into your life and share with Jesus, people that don't know Jesus, is if you hang out with people that don't know Jesus. And I think what can happen to Christians is most of us, we become followers of Jesus. We get in the church and we love the people of the church and it's awesome. And you find your best friends and your family here. And I'm grateful for that. But sometimes what can happen is you form this holy huddle, this Christian bubble. And you look around and you realize that the only people you ever hang out with know Jesus, which is good because you want to hang out and surround yourself with the right kind of people so you look more like Christ. But it's bad because how do you tell people about Jesus if everyone already knows Jesus? It says you should live wisely among non-believers. So that means we need to live among non-believers. We need to find ways to invite people that don't know Jesus into our life. So that way we can say, come follow me as I follow Jesus. I can help you with that. I can show you. I can share with you what Jesus has done in my life and what he can do with yours. So that's one practical way. Just invite people into your life that don't know Jesus. But the other way is to invite people actually to faith in Christ. See, the first way is a beautiful picture of what YFC calls three-story. And if you don't know YFC, it's Youth for Christ. It's a nonprofit organization here in Lansing that we have a great relationship with. Pastor Trent, who's on stage earlier, has been the executive director there for, I think, 400 years, maybe 401 or something like that now. He's been there forever. And one of the cool things they do is they call it three-story, where the idea is that you want to connect with God. Your story with God's story. And that's following Jesus, right? You have a relationship with God. You're following after Jesus. You're abiding in him, learning in him. And then you also want to connect your life with other people's story. Your story connects with their story. So you invite people to be a part of your life, to live among non-believers, people that don't know Jesus. And you have a relationship with them. And it's real relationship. But the hope is that over time, they get a glimpse into what a life of following after Jesus looks like. And you can now connect your story with their story. And your story is connected with God's story. Now you can connect their story to God's story. It's a really cool picture of kind of how faith can work. But it's about living among them, having relationships with people that don't know Jesus, showing Jesus by the way you live. But the reason I said this next thing is we need to invite people to faith is I think that sometimes God calls us to actually speak, not just show. I think God calls you and places you in perfect position to have influence and impact on someone else that you already have a relationship with them, and he wants you to actually say, hey, let me tell you about Jesus, that he loves you, that he came, died, and rose again for your sin and your salvation, that if you put your faith in him, invite him to be the Lord and leader of your life, you can have a relationship with him that starts now and lasts forever. I think sometimes God wants us to actually share our faith, to speak it, to invite people to faith. And here's why I think that's really important. We're talking about what it looks like to follow Jesus, but you cannot follow Jesus if you have not invited Jesus into your life. So it starts by putting your faith in believing that he came, died, and rose again. It starts with faith in Jesus, then you follow after Jesus. But look at what Romans says. This is great. Paul's writing, he says, everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. Invite Jesus to be Lord of your life. He's Son of God, leader of your life. Believe in him, you'll be saved. But then he says, well, how can they call on him to be saved unless they believe in him? Yeah, how can they follow Jesus unless they believe in him? You got to believe first. But he keeps going. And how can they believe in him if they've never heard about him? How do you believe about Jesus if you've never heard about Jesus? That's what he's saying. But then he goes one step further, and I love how he writes this. How can they believe in him if they've never heard of him? And how can they hear about him unless someone tells them? Oh. It's this really important thing. It's called faith in Jesus. And we want to spread the gospel, help people hear their need for Jesus and his love for them. But how can they believe if they've never heard? And how can they hear if no one ever tells them? And I'm here to tell you that Jesus might be telling you to tell somebody. I like to say it this way. It's the greatest story ever told that's hardly ever told. The greatest story of your life is that Jesus has impacted it. It should be the greatest thing in your life is that you put your faith in Christ. And yet, for some reason, we keep that to ourselves sometimes. And I really believe that God might have put you in a place, surrounded you with the right people, placed you in the perfect position to share Jesus with someone. They could only believe if someone tells them. And the question is, why not you? Why not you? And one of the easiest ways to do it is it's just like introducing one friend to another. What's up, Billy? How you doing? I want to introduce you to my best friend ever. His name's Jesus. He wants to be your best friend too. He's awesome. Let me tell you about him. It's that simple to invite someone. So I think that's another practical way we can do it. Not only show them and invite people into our lives, but we can invite them into faith. And then I'm going to give you one last one, super practical, and you're going to think that I'm kind of silly for saying this. And you're going to think I only said it because I'm a pastor. But one way that we can say, come follow me as I follow Jesus, is to simply invite people to church. Like, oh, duh, you're going to say that. I don't get paid more by the more people that come, okay? It's not how it works. But... never mind, I'm just kidding. It was a joke. I know it sounds simple and maybe even silly, but I think when you invite someone to church, you're inviting them to come follow Jesus. Why? If you're at the right church, they are talking about Jesus all the time. If you're at a church and they're not talking about Jesus all the time, leave. And I should leave too, because we're not doing it right. I said that because you're here. See how that made sense? Like, we should be constantly telling people about Jesus. That's why you probably hear how I say it all the time. I want to help you understand that Jesus came and died and rose again, and that you put your faith in him. Anyone who calls on the name of the Lord should be saved. We say it all different ways. The same concept. We want to help you understand that Jesus loves you, that he died for you, and he wants a relationship with you. So you need to be in a church that is sharing Jesus. So when you invite them to church, you're really inviting them to know Jesus. It's a simple way to say, come follow me as I am following Jesus. Just come to church with me. It's easy, and I believe most people are more open than you realize to coming with you. Invite them to come and see. Invite them to taste and see that the Lord is good. One psalm says, taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, the joys of those who take refuge in him. I believe that Jesus is too good to taste and see and then to turn away. He's too good. When you taste and see how awesome God is and what he can do for your life and what he brings, the hope and peace he brings in the midst of the trials and troubles that everyone has, when you taste and see how good God is, it's hard to turn away. And I also believe, I'm a little biased, but I believe that if people would just take a chance and come to River's Edge, I do believe that they're going to walk away saying, I kind of like that. Guy's a little weird. Music was, I don't know what they're singing about, but that was cool. I'd go back. I really believe that if people tasted and saw River's Edge, they would want to return. And our desire here at River's Edge is to create a space where anyone and everyone feels welcome, comfortable, can see their need for Jesus as well as his love for them. Psalm 122 says, I was glad when they said to me, let us go to the house of the Lord. And my hope is that you're glad when Sunday comes around because that means it's time for church. And my hope is that you're so glad when Sunday comes around, not just so you can go, but so that you can invite someone with you. That's my hope and prayer is that you have fun and enjoy what God is doing through River's Edge. And we strive to do that all the time. My hope is that you can say, come follow me as I follow Christ. Why don't you just come to church with me? Now, the message was supposed to kind of stop right there. And most of you are like, if I graded that, it's already B minus, maybe C plus. There was a good joke, there was a bad joke. So I'm okay with what you did. That was another joke. Dang, that was the bad one. But I think for most of you, if you've been around the church world, you're like, yeah, duh. I've heard that we should tell people about Jesus. I know probably inviting people to church is a good thing. And yes, we should be kind to people that don't know Jesus. And probably, have relationships with people that don't know Jesus. I get it. And most of you are probably like, I know I should do that. That sounds like it's important. Sounds good. I get it. But maybe you're motivated enough to think about one person in the service, I should invite that coworker. But you're going to get home, you're going to watch a football game, you're going to forget that you said that anyway. And so maybe you're just kind of that's good, but it's missing something. And that's what I felt. When I was preparing this, I was like, that was good, but it's missing something. I mean, you can do it, but it seems like you might just be going through the motions. And I feel like I've heard the church and pastors share all this. And I think many people know that we should do something like this. But here's what God struck with me this week. He said, are you passionate about this? Passionate? Not really. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. The question I would ask you is, do you have a heart and a real love for people that don't know Jesus? See, part of following after Jesus and simply following him is I realized I was thinking a lot about me. What should I do that Jesus did? What should I say that Jesus said? How should my life look like the life of Jesus? I was really focused on how it should change me. And I think that's part of following after Jesus. But as I was studying, I came across this time where Jesus told 3 simple stories, and he shared the heart of God. And for some reason, what I realized is that I need, if I'm going to follow after Jesus, I need to have the same heart that Jesus had, the same passion and the same drive. And what I want to share with you is I want to share with you something that was said by Jesus that shows that Jesus seemed to have some inner focus, some primary purpose that motivated everything he did on this planet. That actually was the reason he came to earth. I want to show you the heart of Jesus. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save those who are lost. The Son of Man came to seek and to save those who are lost. Now, I've heard that before, but this week I connected the dots that if I'm going to follow after Jesus, then I too need to have that same drive, focus, and purpose and heart for the lost. A heart for helping lost people become found. A heart to seek and to find and bring lost people to Jesus. So I want to share with you the 3 quick stories that Jesus shared. They're called parables. Okay, and a parable is simply either a real story or maybe a made-up story. It's a practical story with a spiritual message, a spiritual point. And most of the time, Jesus shares one parable and has one spiritual point. Sometimes, not a lot, he shares 2 stories with one spiritual point. And for some reason at this point in time, Jesus either thought we were real stupid or he wanted to make his point real clear. So he shared 3 stories with one spiritual point. So that means this is really important. That means you should lean in. That means you should get ready to hear why Jesus shared 3 stories and what was so important to Jesus. Are you ready? Like the back row. Anyone over there ready? Anyone in here ready? All right. That was fake, but I'll take it. All right, here we go. Tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus. I love that. Now, this made the Pharisees and the teachers of religious law complain that he was associating with such sinful people, even eating with them. How dare him? Having dinner with bad people. And then Jesus tells him a story. Isn't that interesting for a moment? Let me just pause. Because he was hanging out with people he shouldn't have been hanging out with, he had to share a story, 2, actually 3, so that these religious people would understand the heart of the Father and the heart of Jesus. Check out these stories he shares. The first one, he says, let me tell you a story. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness and go search for the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, won't he joyfully carry it home on his shoulders? And when he gets home, he arrives, he'll call together his friends and neighbors saying, rejoice with me because I have found my lost sheep. In the same way, there's more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. He says, oh, you don't understand shepherds? Back one. You don't understand shepherds? Let me share another story with you. Let me share another story. Suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and sweep the entire house and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she can call her friends and neighbors and rejoice with me because I have found my lost coin. In the same way, there's joy in the presence of God, God's angels, when even one sinner repents. And then to illustrate the point further, he says, I don't think you got it yet. You guys, you like the sheep. You guys understood the coins. The rest of y'all, you need one more. So he says, let me share one more. And this one's a little longer, so I won't read it. I'll just paraphrase it for you. It's called The Prodigal Son. It's a story of one father with 2 kids, 2 boys. And one son wants his inheritance early. And the father goes, I'm not dead yet. But he says, okay, fine. If you want it, you can have it. So he gives him his inheritance early. And it says that one son that took his inheritance early went off, and it says he blew it on wild living. He blew all of his inheritance going out, living the way he shouldn't live, wild living. And it said that it got so bad that he ended up having to find a place to work, and he worked with pigs, and he was feeding pigs, and he realized that what he was doing right there, that these pigs had it better than him. And he said, you know what? I need to return to my father, and even if I could just be his servant, it'll be better than what I'm dealing with right now. So he says he returns home, and it says on his way home, the father sees him from far off and runs to him and gives him a whole new outfit, puts new shoes on his feet, puts a ring on his finger, and says, let's throw a party for you. For my son who was once lost is found. My son who was once far away, who was once dead, is now alive. All the while, the older son stayed at home, did the right thing, obeyed his father, and he saw this happening, and inside he was not a happy man. Now, all 3 of these stories have some common themes to them. And I want to share with you this picture of what I saw this week that wrecked my heart and gave me a passion and a fire and a heart like Jesus, I think, has. So let me show you. All 3 had similar things. They all have a picture of God, okay, in the story. They all have something that is in the wrong place and something that is in the right place, okay? So first story is the shepherd and the lost sheep. So we cheated, all right? We're gonna let you answer this with us, okay? So God, the representation of God as a shepherd, what's in the wrong place? Yeah, one lost sheep, right? One sheep. And what's in the right place? Yeah, look, you guys got it. All right, you tell us the next one. Who represents God in the story with the woman and the coins? Yeah, woman. And then 1 coin. And then who's in the right place? The 9 coins. All right, yeah, that one's a little hard because 99 and 9. All right. Now, last one, prodigal son. Who represents God? Good, you guys are so smart. Come on, share it. And then there's the one son, and then kind of the same answer, the one son, right? One son's in the wrong place, one son's in the right place. Technically, this son was in the right place physically, but in the wrong place spiritually, right? If you know the story, his heart was in the wrong place. But for the illustration, 1 and 1. Now, I want you to help me understand this. Where was the heart and the focus and the attention of the representation of God in the first story? Where was his total focus on? The one sheep. It says he cares so much about the one sheep that he left the 99 behind. Now, most of you would have been like, one sheep, 99, I'll stick with the 99. But he cared so much that his focus and his love and his attention was on the lost sheep. What about the woman? The one coin. So much that she cleaned her whole house. She moved everything. She moved furniture and vacuumed in the places that no one has vacuumed ever, to find the one coin. And then the prodigal son, where was his attention? Yeah, the father's attention was on the lost son. Why do we know that? Because it says that while he was still far off. And I don't believe that it just was happenstance that he was outside and he looked up and he said, oh, there's my son finally coming back home. I believe that the father was sitting there watching, waiting, praying, hoping that his son would return, seeking and looking for and searching for his son to return, so that when he saw him, he ran to him, though he was far off, and hugged him and put new clothes on him and gave him new shoes and gave him a ring and threw a party. See, what I saw was the heart of the Father is the same heart that Jesus has. His heart and his focus and his passion is about lost people becoming found people. People that are far from God coming to God. People that need Jesus, finding Jesus. He said, I came to seek and to save the lost. And then this picture came that what if Jesus is saying, I want you to come and follow me. Not just look like me, live like me, act like me, but I want you to come and follow me as I seek and save. What if Jesus is inviting you to come and have the same purpose and the same passion and the same focus and the same destination that he has, to actually care for, to actually love, to actually be motivated in everything you do to seek and find lost people? Jesus came to seek and to save. We cannot save, only Jesus can. But I believe that he's inviting us in to seek and find. I believe that Jesus wants you to have a heart like he has. I believe he's looking over their shoulder. He's saying, I want you to follow me. But following me is not just about the things you do or the things you say. It's about the heart you have. And for whatever reason, this week as I saw that, I was wrecked because I realized that I like to be like Jesus. I try to be like Jesus. I want to talk like him and act like him and live like him. I want other people to see Jesus in my life. But somehow, at times, somewhere along the way, I lost that passion for the lost. Like all of us would say, yeah, I care about people that don't know Jesus. But I realize that if you look at my life, it's not always motivated by a desire to seek and find people that are far from God to bring them in. And I just had this, there's a song called Light the Fire in My Soul. I don't know if that's the name of the song, but the lyrics say, light the fire in my soul, fan the flame, make it whole. Lord, you know who I am. Light the fire in my heart again. And I feel like God was lighting the fire in my heart again because he was saying, I want you, Chase, to have the same heart that I have, a heart for the lost, a passion and a drive for people that are far from God. And so my question to you this morning is just simply that. Do you have a heart and a passion and a love for people that don't know Jesus? Are you motivated to invite people into your life that don't know Christ? Are you motivated to invite people into faith that don't know Jesus? Are you motivated to just simply invite people to church that don't know Christ? Do you actually love them and are passionate about helping them find Christ? If not, I want to give you an opportunity to just ask God to give you a heart like his. I believe the heart of the Father is for the lost coin, the lost sheep, the lost son. I believe Jesus' heart is for those that are lost. And I believe with all that I am that we are called to be like Jesus in every way. And that means that we're called to have the same heart. And I believe when we get the heart right, when that's what motivates us, when that's what wakes us up in the morning, it's like, oh man, who am I going to come in contact with today that needs Jesus? When that is something you are passionate about, then it will impact the way you live, the things you do, the things you say, how you prioritize your life. But it starts with a heart for people that don't know Christ. So I want to give you 15 seconds to just sit with God. And my hope is that you're praying this: God, give me a heart like yours. God, I want the same passion and drive that Jesus had for the lost people. And my hope is that that's what you would do. Just take a moment, 15 seconds, just ask God to give you that. God, we ask that you would change our hearts to make them more like you. And you would change our hearts so that our hearts would be the same heart that you have. Lord, God, honestly, even if just one person in the room said, you know, I want to be motivated with what motivated Jesus. I want to seek and find people that are lost so they can be found, that are far from God so they can be brought into the family. God, my hope and prayer is that River's Edge becomes a place that invites so many people to heaven that people start paying attention. Lord, my prayer is that we get to heaven and God is like, wow, you guys really took this +1 seriously. This is amazing. Keep inviting. It's awesome. Lord, I don't want to go alone. I really believe that you called us to follow after you, and part of following after you is inviting others to come along. And I don't know exactly what that looks like in every single life in the room, but I do believe that you have placed us in positions in our life, given us circles of influence, given us a platform, placed us at that work, placed us in this family, placed us on that block in the neighborhood, put us in this athletic thing that our kids are doing so that we can be a light to the world. And hopefully so that we can invite other people to follow Jesus just as we are. So move in whatever way you need to motivate every heart in this place to have the same heart as you. Amen.